were some of the qualities in the interview stage do you think that Nick saw in you to launch the sports science program?
He'd obviously done some background, and I put some stuff out on Twitter just with coding, and my own kind of research at the time was I was still relatively early in my PhD. It's the biggest meta-analysis that's been done in strength and conditioning. So it includes 643 studies. So we were handling fairly large data sets early on in the PhD. The interview it started off S&C based. So me and him actually got into a bit of a debate around sprinting and kinetics and kinematics associated with acceleration and then max velocity performance. And we kind of had a little back and forth, and obviously he won. So I think he was potentially just a bit impressed and obviously liked the idea of someone that could have a conversation about these kind of things and dig a little bit deeper.
What about biggest challenges you faced, and how did you sort of learn and grow from facing those challenges, both in pro sport but also in research?
Outside of the move from S&C to sports science was actually probably the move from being in an academy setup to professional sport. The toughest thing was the difference in communication styles that are required. I think in the academy setup, when you're dealing with younger athletes, it's obviously a different communication style, but it's easier to get a bit of buy-in with them because you're wearing the Scottish Rugby t-shirt, like you are employed by the governing body that they want to play for or they want to also be a part of. Whereas you come into a professional setup and then all of a sudden I was confronted with people or athletes that have got 100 caps for Scotland and they've been doing this for 20 years and they've been training the whole life. There's definitely a communication element there where we've got to try and maybe just take a step back, build a bit more of a personal relationship. The motivational factors are different for a professional athlete than they are an academy athlete.
What are some other sort of misunderstandings, do you think, or tendencies we have as an industry to get caught up in that aren't so effective, and what would be some good actual tips to sort of focus on around that?
I think we do get caught up in training methods. We can get caught up in everyone needs to squat, everyone needs to do X amount of sets and X amount of reps, and whereas in reality, that's just not the case, or I personally don't feel the case. I did take from Nick Lumley in that he was big on chasing adaptation, especially team sport athletes who are competing at an extremely high level. Some of them just aren't, they're not built to barbell back squat. Like if you got 6'6" key back and he's back squatting, you say, mate, you've got to learn how to do it. But you look at it and you watch it and you think, he's all flexed over at the hips. You're just increasing shear and force through the lumbar spine. His patellas are sore because his femurs are 10 feet long and it just doesn't look right. Probably means he probably shouldn't be doing it. So let's go and leg press. Let's go and do something a little bit more simple, but we're still going to chase the adaptations.
Can you explain the dose response when it comes to your research in regards to sprint training for field-based athletes?
We did another subsequent meta-analysis, so there's 3 involving only team sport athletes, and then really digging into the transference of non-specific training methods as well as specific training methods. So non-specific we categorized as everything you see in the gym: strength training, power training, ballistic training, plyos, and then more specific methods of resisted sprinting, free sprinting, assisted sprinting. But again, across the 2 subsequent papers, really digging into these kind of dose response relationships. Intensity was the main thing that came out in relation to actually prescription. Loads of up to 80% plus 1 RM elicited the highest amount of change in sprint performance, which personally I found quite interesting because a lot of people will go down now, you need to run fast to get fast and whatever, and that's absolutely true, but we shouldn't negate the importance of actually getting stronger, especially for these guys who aren't trained in the context of sprinting. They're sometimes not great movers.
What's some of your favorite strategies in terms of, I guess, trying to still get that stimulus into them in their gym or with cross training to ensure that when they do start to return to on-field loads, that I guess they haven't detrained as significantly?
Yeah, I think there's obviously the low-hanging fruits in terms of maintaining strength loading, and we can do things like plyos and ballistics. But if someone is really lacking in that space, you can make use of resisted sled work and kind of banded work to kind of really still work on those capacities without going out on the field and doing rep after rep after rep. One thing that I've actually taken a lot from Edinburgh was we did a lot of depth jumps at Edinburgh. When we did some in-house research, there's absolutely no denying the eccentric forces that you have to produce when you do a depth jump off a really high box. So if you can get to a point where you're going off 45, 60 centimeter boxes with a depth jump, that's really going to be close to, if not over, the kind of eccentric and kind of mechanical demands that you're going to experience when you're decelerating.